Okay, what is going on, everyone? Hope everyone is doing well. I'll take these off. We are on week 14, so we're almost to the end, which is crazy. So I'm gonna give it a minute. People will be joining here in a second. I just tweeted it out. So, but go ahead and start posting your questions if you have any. It's a difficult week. Really challenging as far as how we're actually going about this week, how we're thinking about this week. It seems to be a little bit of a limited playing pool. So I wrote this in my article today, but if we just look at the offenses that are playing on this schedule, there are a lot of teams where we would just say, no, I'm not playing those guys, or there's one player from those teams that you would consider. So as I ramble here, just as people are joining, please post your questions. It's going to be a DFS oriented show like it always is, but we'll answer anything. Are you in your playoffs and you need a tough decision? Are you starting to think about keeper leagues? Whatever the case is, but primarily focused here. On just week 14. But yeah, I mean, looking at the schedule for the main slate on DFS, the Jets are a team that we really don't want to play, especially with Elijah Moore out. Falcons, maybe Kyle Pitts. Panthers, maybe DJ Moore, maybe. Cam Newton, I guess. But Seahawks, Texans, that's probably just a straight avoid. The Raiders have Josh Jacobs. The Chiefs, obviously, everyone is in play there. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson. The Browns, maybe Jarvis Landry. Cowboys, Washington, everyone's in play. Jaguars, Titans, nobody really. A couple guys I'm sure you could throw in there. But Lions, Broncos, same thing. Giants, no. Like, there's a number of Bills besides Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. So it's really limited just as far as the number of players that you may want to consider in DFS this week. But let's go ahead and jump into it, and we will get started. First question, Brandon Ayuk or Julio Jones? Yeah, I expected a number of Julio questions today. It depends. And this is where, if you can please just add in the more information that you guys can add in, the better, whether this is season long, whether this is DraftKings or FanDuel, whatever the case is, the more information you guys can add, the better. But if I just look at Julio versus Brandon Ayuk, they're incredibly close. So I think Julio is a bit safer, where Ayuk is more of like probably a little bit more of a boomer bust, but I have these guys projected within a 10th of a point of each other. So if you want conservative, I think that they're going to get Julio the ball. I would probably go Julio, just because if I look at the past two games, Ayuk had 3 for 91 and 3 for 55. I don't typically like to play those guys that have the 30-yard catch potential, and if they don't catch a 30-yard pass, or we saw what happened with Jamar Chase where he dropped what would have been a 70-yard touchdown. If that happens, their entire day is not great. Or even worse, sometimes you don't get, there's a pass interference call. So they're open, they get tackled, and you don't get points for pass interference. So I'm going to go Julio there, but it's really, really close there. Wide receiver to pick up with all the IR COVIDs out. I don't know. I don't know your league. So if you could post a couple names maybe that you are available, and then I can certainly try and pick from there. But with the number of different leagues, the number of different sizes, etc., it's really hard to answer that question. Which Chargers should be considered in cash for FanDuel? It's a good question. So I think one of the most popular players this week will be Mike Williams. I'm not playing Mike Williams in cash. I think Mike Williams I think he's going to be 50, 60, 70% rostered, to be honest. but I'm taking a stand against him simply because, like I mentioned, similar to Brandon Ayuk, I don't love the players that have the relying on these big catches. So Jalen Guyton is probably going to see a large number of passes out of the slot. He's in a really good spot. You can play Austin Eckler. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that he's a little pricey, if I'm being honest. Probably you're paying for the touchdowns, which he's had in a vast number. I think he has 7 or 8 touchdowns over his last 4 games. So I think he's 7, maybe 8, maybe 9. I don't know. But sort of paying for that. So I think you definitely need him to score. You might need him to score twice, but that's certainly in the realm of possibility. I prefer, if you're going to pay up, to go to Alvin Kamara. So I'm actually playing just Jalen Guyton in my FanDuel cash lineup this week. But if you want to just say, hey, I want to cancel out with everybody in the field, you might want to play Mike Williams as well. Where is the value at running back in cash this week on DraftKings? So if I look at DraftKings, first name that's going to pop up, and let me just pull this up, value. So I'm avoiding the Detroit situation completely. What is Jeff Wilson's price? He should be pretty cheap. Yeah, Jeff Wilson at 4,400 is certainly a good value. The last time that Elijah Mitchell was out, Wilson had over 20 touches. He was on the field for 58% of the snaps. Jermichael Hasty's going to play, but I like him better than some of the Detroit backs. Obviously, Javonte Williams is the big question this week. If we got news that Melvin Gordon was somehow limited, it does look like he's going to play. I actually think a lot of people are going to be on Javonte Williams, but to be honest, I'm not, simply because I don't think that they had a very productive rushing attack with both of those guys in there. I don't think that this is all of a sudden going to be, hey, all of the carries are going to go to Javonte Williams. I don't think that's going to be the case. So if I'm just looking at value, Jeff Wilson pops for me as the number one guy. Looking down a little bit, it's dicey. Maybe like a Ty Johnson and hope that you get a lot of catches, but Wilson's really the only player that I'm looking to play in cash this week. On the power grid, you mentioned Hill and Kamara and stack in cash. DraftKings, are you still thinking that? Yeah, I am. So I'm certainly doing that on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, I don't play a ton of DraftKings cash. I play a little bit, but because most of my focus is on FanDuel with writing an article there, a cash game article, and publishing my lineup, a vast majority of my play is on FanDuel. I think I'm a better FanDuel player, but yeah, I play about 20 to 30% of what I play on FanDuel on DraftKings. So, but yeah, I'm still playing both. I think the reason here is I think you get pretty much all the touchdowns. And I think they're going to score 4. So if I can get 4 touchdowns out of those 2 guys, passing, rushing, whatever the case is, it's probably not a good GPP strategy, simply because the upside isn't there. But if you can get 3 or 4 touchdowns out of those guys, if they throw one to the other, like, that's even better. But sort of how I'm going. Regular non-DFS fantasy, Burrow or Russell Wilson? I'm going to Joe Burrow. I can't trust Russell Wilson at the moment. It's just not a guy that I want to trust here in Week 14, knowing that you most likely need a win, whether it's playoff seedings to get into the playoffs or they're playing for a bye. But no, I just can't. I just can't take Russell Wilson. Hooper or Jared Cook? Austin Hooper. So with all of the injuries to Cleveland, Hooper's going to be the number 2 target there from a passing perspective. So I believe that he will certainly be the second guy that you want to the tight end, the cheap tight end if you want to pay down. I actually found a couple of lineups that I like that are paying up. at the tight end position. So going with Travis Kelce or George Kittle, I think that could be a big advantage this week. Much like it was last week. So Travis Kelce in this Chiefs passing defense or passing offense is getting very much slept on. So Patrick Mahomes has thrown for 340 yards or more in 4 straight, I want to say, against Las Vegas, and he threw for 400 yards earlier this season. So I do think that Kelce could be a really solid play this week. As a GPP play, yeah, I think as a cost savings perspective, you could definitely look at either one of those guys. I like them in cash too. I think Guyton, if I just look here at my roster percentages that I publish, if I look at Guyton, I have him at about 10%, and Palmer a little bit less. I have him about 6, 5.5, something like that. So, but I think they're both fine. Like I said, Mike Williams is going to be very popular. Williams on DraftKings is going to be north of 20, 25%. So if he struggles, which he's a big play receiver and someone else is going to have to catch the ball there, he's a prime candidate to potentially pivot off of. Renfrow or Mike Williams in cash, Hunter Renfrow, simply because of the safety that you get there. But, I mean, it's tricky, right? Because Mike Williams catches one big touchdown. I mean, you're kind of SOL, but it's why I never play DK Metcalf in cash, for example. Now, Williams is a little bit safer than DK, but it's a very similar mindset. I want guys that I can lock in. Lock in is relatively, no one's safe, right? I mean, everyone has risk, but lock in as close to 15 points at that price point. And I think Renfrow was pretty safe for like 6 for 80 or 7 for 70 with a chance at a touchdown. So I'll go Hunter Renfrow there. The other thing that worries me about this Chargers game is like, what happens if the Chargers get up 14-0? What happens if there's a defensive touchdown? A lot of people are going to be playing the Chargers defense. So just sort of a little bit worried about that game in general. Like, are they going to score 40 points 2 weeks in a row? Probably not. But I need one wide receiver in a flex from Hopkins, Mike Williams, and David Montgomery. Standard, but old school distance scoring with yardage bonuses. Without knowing your team, it's going to depend. So we're playing DeAndre Hopkins. Like, we're playing him. So the question really comes down to Mike Williams and Montgomery. I don't know what your scoring distance bonuses and yardage bonuses are. So what I would say is, if you need a Hail Mary, if you think you're behind, go Mike Williams. If you get 40-yard touchdowns, I mean, he's perfect for that league. So where Montgomery, he has a decent chance to score, but not necessarily a long one. And you're a Bears fan. So if you want to root for Montgomery, you know him better than probably I do, to be honest. So I don't need to explain that to you. But I would say if you feel good about your matchup this week, go with Montgomery. If you need a home run, go with Mike Williams. Best tight end, not Travis Kelce on DraftKings. Let's assume it's value-based. So guys I like from a value perspective, I like Austin Hooper quite a bit at 3,400. I think that he opens up a lot for you to be able to do. So if you're paying down, that's how I would go. If I'm paying up on DraftKings, I'm actually going to Rob Gronkowski. Every game that he's been active and played, let's just say past the first quarter. I know he got hurt in one of those games where he only had one target, but every other game this year, I think except for one, he has 8 targets or more. So it's really reverting back to like prime Rob Gronkowski. Now, because of the health and because of other things, he's not been as consistent, and there's always a chance that he gets hurt. But I think at $6K, it's a decent value. And I don't know that a lot of people are, I mean, he's going to be decently rostered, but I don't think he's going to be crazy. I think he's going to be like the 8 to 10% this week. So Max, how are you? Thanks, buddy, and thanks for the reminder. If you guys could all hit the like button. Yeah, hopefully we tried to add a little bit of just like I don't know if it was comedy, but just like joking around on the power grid this week. It's week 14. For those of you that missed it, I thought it was one of our best episodes. If you guys watched it, if you liked it, didn't like it, let us know. We're always trying to just change things up a little bit. Sometimes it gets a little monotonous, and I'll fully admit I'm not the best host. So trying to add in some humor there, I thought was kind of fun. FanDuel small GPP, would you change anything from cracking FanDuel if Monday slate was in play? To be honest, I don't know because I haven't looked at the Monday slate. Let me pull up Sunday, Monday. Like Cooper Cup's $9,000. That's probably not, to be honest. Probably not, but I'm just checking here to see if there's anyone else that I like in that Sunday, Monday slate. I would probably let it be. Against Arizona at 9,000, I think the price is a little bit steep, but I really like Kamara this week is probably why I'm paying up that much for him. Yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything. But shoot me a DM on Twitter about this question because I'll look at it. I'll look at it some more tonight. Jacobs or Gibson cash DraftKings, especially if J.D. McKissic plays? That's a good question. So let me just look really quickly. So Gibson, and Gibson and Jacobs. They are almost identical, huh? Looking at auxiliary stats here. Let's go with a. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. We are going to go with Josh Jacobs simply because I think the way. I mean, he caught 9 passes last week. So if he even catches 5, that's a huge, huge bonus. And is Gibson going to continue to see 25 or 26 carries a week? He might, but I like both of them. I'm going to go Jacobs on DraftKings. If it was FanDuel, I would answer Gibson because of the PPR thing. But I think he's still going to play a pretty big role in the passing game this week. Sorry, my dog is going absolutely insane next to me. But yeah, it's Josh Jacobs for me this week. Any info is no, I don't know, to be honest. I think that we're not going to know that until hindsight. They could, but they could also, like Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton are both in the slot as well. So have played a lot of time in that position. So I don't think they would do that. I think they still want the outside presence, but if we find something that Mike Williams is moving to the slot, like that changes everything, to be honest, because the Giants simply can't defend the slot. They have a undrafted second-year player, I forget his name, who just made his NFL debut last week as a slot corner. So if that changes, then yeah, if you find something, let me know. I haven't seen anything, though. Gallup or Sutton on FanDuel scoring? So Gallup, probably Sutton, but let me just confirm that. Yeah, it's close too. You guys are good with these questions. You're looking at somebody's projections, probably football guys, but they're all within like a point of each other. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton over Gallup. I I think it's safer. Like Michael Gallup, I know he had 5 for 36 and he scored that touchdown last week, but like if he doesn't score that touchdown, he had a big game against the Raiders, but they had some injuries there. I just don't like taking a player who's like the fourth option. Maybe he's the third option, but he's fighting with Ezekiel Elliott and Dalton Schultz as a consistent receiver. Now, Cortland Sutton has been abysmal too. But I feel like I trust him a little bit more. Neither are great plays. Like if you have another play that you might want to take, but I think Sutton going up against Detroit this week, they try to get him right. Herbert or Taysom Hill, 0.5 point season long. So this one is going to be very similar to some of the other answers, but it all depends on your matchup. And in season long, that a lot of the times when you're going down with these close decisions, like if you're playing like a team that you think you should beat, like you look at your matchup and you're better at most positions, take Justin Herbert. With that said, if you're behind and you think, hey, I'm playing the best team in the league and I sort of need a boomer bust perspective, you could go Taysom Hill and hope that he scores 30 points. Like he certainly has the upside to do that. Does Herbert have that upside? Maybe, maybe not, but certainly has a higher floor than Taysom Hill. Like Taysom Hill's floor is like 200 yards passing, 70 yards rushing, which is like 14, 15 points, but all the touchdowns could go to Alvin Kamara. So I think Herbert is just a little bit safer, but I certainly love Taysom Hill this week. If you feel like it's a close matchup, I would go Taysom Hill. If you feel like you're behind, I would go Taysom Hill. If you feel like, hey, I just feel like I'm going to win, I feel like things are pretty good here, then you would probably go Justin Herbert. And I hate answering questions like that, but it's how I think about all my season-long leagues. So I know some people are like, absolutely, play Herbert. And it's like, there's volatility to all of this, to be honest. I mean, we're talking when we get to the level of that all these questions are coming out. We're talking in like there's no like no-brainer questions, if that makes any sense. Everything is within a point, a half a point, a point and a half, something like that. So there's different outcomes that could certainly come up. Would you consider a FanDuel 100 total teams, top 12 cash max 3 lineup GPP? Hold on. Would you consider a FanDuel 100 total teams, top 12 cash? Here's how I would treat it. So I would treat it like a GPP just because you're at like the top 10 to, well, in this case, 12%, but anything that's cashing like 15 to 20% or less, I treat as a GPP. So, but with something this small, you don't have to go crazy. So you can pick a stack. You certainly want to stack in this type of league. So most people will be, I would imagine. And you could run it back with like a different player from a different team, but I don't think you'd have to go insane. Like you don't have to go something like you would put in FanDuel Million or like a Millionaire Maker on DraftKings, where it's like, hey, if all of these scenarios hit, then I win all the money. You don't have to do it that way. But you should at least have a stack where cash, I don't always have a stack. A lot of the times I do, but I don't always do it. So you might want to fade, like you could, in this type of tournament, you could choose to fade a couple of like the higher end players. Like you could choose to fade a guy like, let me just ramble off some of the top rostered players most likely in this league. And you said FanDuel, so let me just make sure I'm rambling off the right list. But guys like, you could fade a guy like Mike Williams, or you could fade a guy like Chris Godwin, or you could fade Stephon Diggs is going to be popular. You don't have to fade all of them, but Tom Brady is going to be really popular at the quarterback position, for example. So choosing to fade a couple of these top end guys could really pay off. Zeke or Sony Michel? Zeke or Sony Michel? Pulling this up. Michel. Elliott. Let's go Sony Michel. Sony Michel. Zeke's knee injury still scares me a little bit. I do like him on FanDuel this week simply because his price at 6,900 is way too cheap, and Sony Michel's not on the main lineup there. But if you're just talking in a vacuum, I want the more predictable offense, and I know where the touches are coming from for Sony Michel. I don't know that Zeke is going to. I don't know just because Tony Pollard's situation that all of a sudden Elliott is going to see 20 carries. I don't know if he's capable of doing that right now, where I know Michel is. So give me Sony Michel. Which one do you favor? Standard scoring: Gage, Beasley, Judy, Guyton. Standard scoring. So we're looking for touchdowns. Let's pull this up. Gage, Beasley. I'm actually pulling up touchdown props to see where the sports books have it. Some of this is going to be close. So I'm going to compare both sportsbook props with Football Guys props to make sure that either they align or they don't. So it looks like we're in the same ballpark. Gage or Judy. I'm going to go Jerry Judy just because I believe it's either him. He's been like the number one guy there above Cortland Sutton. Isn't he? Jerry Judy's not lighting the world on fire either, but I think that against Detroit, this Denver passing offense gets right. So FanDuel Gibson without JD is greater than Leonard Fournette. Cash, yes. Yeah, cash for sure. GPPs, I would go Fournette. And the reason I say that is because the ceiling, I believe, for Fournette is higher than Gibson. But we've seen Gibson when McKissick's not in, he's getting 22, 24, 25 carries. Dallas's run D is pretty good. They've had some hiccups along the way, but Buffalo was embarrassed last week. But Fournette in a cash game setting on FanDuel, a lot of his value comes from those PPR points. So if you're only getting half of that, I would tend to lean towards Gibson a little bit. Thank you. If you guys can hit the like, that's much appreciated. No. I can't sign off on Baker this week. If you want to take a shot in a GPP, I will tell you that almost no one will have him. So you're right that the Ravens secondary is a complete mess right now. But so is Baker. And that's the problem, is that he's not, put it this way, he's not cheap enough. You're going to do it. FanDuel, he's really cheap, $6,500, fine. But on DraftKings, you have Taysom Hill, you have Taysom Hill at 56 and Baker's at 52. And you have Cam at 54 and Baker's at 52. Like, both of those guys have way more upside because of their rushing ability and then what Baker has. If you want to play Jarvis Landry, like, I've strongly considered it this week. I think Jarvis Landry's in a really good spot. I think Austin Hooper's in a really good spot. But outside of that, look, I'm a Browns fan. I may be the world's biggest Baker Mayfield hater. So I may not be fully qualified to answer this question, but I want guys that, if they're non-mobile quarterbacks, I want guys that have 300-yard potential. And Mayfield hasn't done that in a long, long time. Straight up pick Bengals or Niners. I'm assuming you mean for like the actual game. I think that's how to read that question. Bengals or Niners? Let's go. What's funny about this question is I just tweeted out that the Bengals are the team that I never get right. I thought they would. What was it, last week? Yeah, last week. I thought they were going to beat the Chargers and run all over them. So you probably want to do the opposite of what I want to say here. But I'm going to go the 49ers. I think there's more skilled positions there. Joe Mixon's banged up / sick / didn't practice this week. So that scares me. I think it's going to be a really good game, though. It's one of the ones that I'm really excited for. Thanks, Max. I appreciate it. Yeah, that Deontay Johnson one is seemingly very, very strong. My props have not been that great this year. I need to get hot. So maybe we're onto something coming up here. I don't know your question, John. If we wake up Javonte Williams, I don't know. Retype it and I'll answer it. Start 2, Julio, Ayuk, or Mooney. I really want to start Julio, but I don't know. Start Julio. Go Julio and Ayuk. Let me just make sure I'm not spitting nonsense. But hold on. Julio. And Julio's just fun. I mean, they have no one else to go to. So if they're playing him, I think they're going to use him quite a bit. Against Jacksonville, too. So they're going to try and just get him the ball, get him comfortable. The Titans should very easily roll. Jacksonville's a complete mess right now. Mooney and Ayuk. Yeah, I mean, you can go. It's close. So if you want to play Julio, play Julio. I'm going to say actually, I'm definitely playing Julio. Julio is the guy I'm playing here. Going back to Ayuk and Mooney, it's the same conversation we've had like 4 times on the show. If you want upside, go Ayuk. If you want safety, pains me to say it, but Darnell Mooney's been pretty darn consistent this year. They're getting him the ball. So 16 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets, 5 receptions in each of his last 3 games. Doesn't score a ton of touchdowns. So if you need pure upside, I would go Ayuk, but I'm playing Julio Jones. If Pollard is starting, how does your cash lineups change? Let's hope he's not. But let me take a look at that. Right now I have Ezekiel Elliott in my lineup. I don't know that we've heard anything on Tony Pollard one way or the other. I certainly have. I mean, it's likely that he's not going to play. So if he does, and I have to find right now, I'll just ramble off who I have in my lineup. I have Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, and Jeff Wilson. What I would probably do if Ezekiel Elliott is not playing is I would take Kamara out of my lineup, and I would go Leonard Fournette and Antonio Gibson. I don't know if the salary works, and I might have to change some defenses, but I would come off of Kamara to save some money. Because my running back rankings this week, I have Wilson number 1, I have Leonard Fournette number 2, Alvin Kamara 3, Elliott 4, Eckler 5, Gibson 6, Javonte Williams 7. If Melvin Gordon doesn't play, Javonte Williams jumps up to number 1. But that's sort of how I'm going with it this week. But Alvin Kamara, if you can afford him, I love him this week. And I love Leonard Fournette as well, but sort of how I'm going. How do you feel about Javonte Williams cash on DraftKings? I'm not doing it. I think it's speculative. Like, I just don't believe that they're going to all of a sudden hand this over to Javonte Williams. I would much rather go $100 more to Antonio Gibson I would much rather go who's some other guys that I would want to go to? I would rather play Josh Jacobs at $300 or $400 more. I just, one good game is not enough to change things for me. It's a good matchup, but Melvin Gordon, they could very easily give him 10 or 12 touches. These guys were almost identical up until last week. Melvin Gordon had a big week back in like week 3, and nothing really changed there either. So, Broncos or Chargers this week. I'm gonna go. Give me Denver. Yeah, I mean Jared Goff throwing 40 times, bound for some interceptions. The Chargers. I said it earlier, but I don't know how this game's gonna go. I think it's a sneaky spot for the Chargers where they may have a letdown game coming off of the big win last week against Cincinnati. So the Chargers have been sort of difficult to figure out. Like their defense, they're not overly great with sacks. If I look at the Chargers schedule, like they've been sort of hit or miss this season. They gave up 40 points to the Browns. They gave up 37 to the Steelers. Both of those offenses are absolutely terrible. Gave up 28 to the Broncos. So I don't think that this Chargers defense is very good. I think that a lot of people like them this week in DFS because they're cheap. And the Giants aren't great. Like Mike Lennon sucks, but I look at the Chargers. They gave up 22, 28, 37, 27, 24, 27, 34, 42. It's a lot of points. And not enough sacks to justify that. Thoughts on paying down tight end to Hooper and using savings to upgrade at wide receivers or running backs? Yeah. On DraftKings, I think it's fine. On FanDuel, if there's a wide receiver or running back you absolutely love, I'm fine with that. I just don't have that many top-end wide receivers that I absolutely love. It's like, do I just take a chance on Jalen Guyton, or do I take the salary and go with the 7,000 range is sort of weak, because if I look at FanDuel really quickly, that would get me up to like 7,700, right? I'm already playing Chris Godwin. DK Metcalf, I never play in cash. Tyler Lockett, I want no part of. DeAndre Hopkins and that's a Sunday, Monday game anyway. Mike Evans, I'm already playing Chris Godwin. Jamar Chase is more of a GPP play. Terry McLaurin has been absolutely horrendous lately. Marquise Brown, I want no part of. So, like, there's not really the guys, right? There's not really the guy that I want to absolutely pay up for. So, I just no. I mean, is the short answer. I wish there were more options in that range, but there's not. So unless I could go all the way up to like a Tyreek Hill or a Stephon Diggs, maybe, those would be the only two. So I think my Hill and Kamara starts on FanDuel sharp. I hope so. I've been really good on FanDuel this year. So I just think that they score 28, and I think that a lot of people are going to be playing Brady, and Brady's great. I have no issue with him. I think he's my number 1 quarterback, maybe my number 2, but he has had some inconsistencies this year. And on FanDuel, without the 300-yard bonus, I sort of want that rushing upside, and playing Austin Eckler scares me because of the PPR standpoint. If Mark Ingram was playing, and I think he's been ruled out officially, I wouldn't be on Kamara, because Mark Ingram would certainly eat into some of those touches, but they're not playing Tony Jones. They're just not. They're not playing Ty Montgomery. can't talk, but I believe Ty Montgomery's been ruled out as well. So, are the Chiefs' defense the best defense below 4K? Yes. Yeah, there's not much there. It's a really, really weak defense, pay down for defense week this week. So, but I believe the Chiefs are the best. I'm trying to pull up to see if there's any other defenses that I might like in that price range. Not really. No, no, there's not. They're the only defense I would consider sub 4K. The only defense you might want to consider if you want to go all the way down is a GPP is the New York Jets, just because Taysom Hill threw 4 interceptions last week, but I'm not doing that. Oh, if we wake up and Javonte Williams is starting for Gordon, if we wake up and we say Melvin Gordon is going to be limited, or Melvin Gordon is going to be on a snap count, or Melvin Gordon's going to be on going to see 5 to 10 touches. Yeah, I'm all in on Javonte Williams. That's a no-brainer, right? He jumps up to the number 1 guy on the board, and he's a must-play, and everything is solved. But until they say that, I don't see any reason why Melvin Gordon's not going to get his normal workload. Yeah, lowest defense on FanDuel that I would go to is Kansas City. Lamar or Taysom Hill. GPP, I'm going Lamar Jackson. Cash, I'm going Taysom Hill. I think I like Lamar a lot on DraftKings because I think he tops 100 yards this week rushing. I'm all over his prop of 61.5 rushing yards. But Taysom Hill is more consistent. And I can stack Lamar Jackson. I don't know that I can stack in a GPP. I don't know that I can stack Taysom Hill. So sort of how I'd approach that. No, I don't know if that answers your question, but things are not always binary. Titans, Seattle, or Chargers? I like the picture. Titans against Jacksonville. Seattle over Tennessee, and Seattle over the Chargers. So Seattle, their defense is not good, but Davis Mills is not good either. I don't know that losing Jamal Adams hurts all that much. He's been really bad this year, so I don't know that it hurts them all that much. Sonny Michel, Javonte Williams, or Mike Evans. Yikes. Sonny Michel's playing here. Sonny Michel is definitely in. Question is Javonte Williams or Mike Evans. You guys are killing me with these hard questions tonight. Maybe I'm just not prepared, or maybe these questions are really good. One of the two. Williams or Evans? Let's go. I'm going to go Javonte in this scenario. I'm going to go Javonte. The reason here is, one, he has less to, I think it's safer. I think that Mike Evans has massive upside. I think we all know that. He has 2-3 touchdown potential. However, his floor is pretty low. And if I'm looking at just a floor guy, like a mid-range projection, I would go Javonte. But if you need that upside, man, go with Mike Evans. Because I don't know that Javonte Williams, if Melvin Gordon is going to play, has that 25-point potential. Maybe he does, but I don't see it. Other people do, though. So, thoughts on Dallas versus Washington for a shootout? I don't know that I would go Taylor Heineke. I would probably take Dak and run it. If you think it's going to be a shootout, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I think every I don't want to say every game, but a lot of games can shoot out, right? And that's certainly one that two decent offenses, two good defenses, particularly Washington's run D. But Ezekiel Elliott's going to get enough touches that it's not going to matter. So if you're going to stack it, I go Dak, I go one of CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper, and I run it back with Terry McLaurin. I don't know that Taylor Heineke has that 300-plus massive game potential. So that's how I would go about that there. Diggs and CeeDee Lamb in cash? No. I would rather play Chris Godwin. I'm trying to get Hunter Renfrow in my lineup. I think his price is too cheap. You can go Mike Williams. I'm not, but you certainly could, and I'm not going to blame anybody that does. And then you should probably look down to save some money elsewhere. If you want to play one of these guys, I play Stephon Diggs. But I don't know that I pay up for both. I don't know. I don't use Fantasy Cruncher. Might want to ask them instead of Football Guys. Herbert or Taysom Hill? It depends on what you're trying to do, Jim. I think I answered a similar question here, but if you want upside, I think Taysom Hill is the guy. If you want a floor and you want to just say, hey, I want more of a steady, solid points, I go Herbert. I'm playing Taysom Hill in DFS, so I think he has a big game, but he certainly has a scenario where he's not very good. And if you're in a season-long league and you say, hey, I'm a pretty big favorite. I know I'm sort of repeating myself here, but a lot of people jump in and out of their chat. So 10 team, 4 points per touchdown. So yeah, you're talking season long. If you think you're a big favorite, go Herbert. But otherwise, in any other scenario, if you think it's a close match or you think you need upside, go Taysom Hill. Yeah. Fear Money, you're in the wrong chat, buddy. This is not a Fantasy Cruncher chat. We're not affiliated with them. Yeah, we have our. No, I don't think it's crap. I'm just not going to promote another company. We have our own lineup optimizer at Football Guys. So, Fatal Cash. Anybody you take in the 5 to 6K range over Guyton? I'm playing Guyton, so anybody I would take over him. If you can find the money, I would probably go up to like a Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's in a good spot this week. If you want to go Marvin Jones, he could be in an interesting spot this week. Yeah, there's not a lot in that range. Jamison Crowder might be interesting now that Elijah Moore is out. So I appreciate that, Dan. So for those listening, cash game lineups have been money. Yeah, we've been really, really hot this year. So hopefully it continues. Hopefully we can not give some of it back. I think we're like 11-3, something like that, 10-4. So we've been really good. But we have to close the season strong and make sure everyone's profitable this year. So look, I think last year we were about break even. So this year we've absolutely crushed it. Hasty or Wilson, Henderson or Michelle. So Henderson, I believe is out. Let me double check that. He was placed on the COVID list. So Michelle is definitely playing, and Michelle is definitely the guy that you want to play. Jeff Wilson is the guy that I'm playing over to Michael Hasty. So the last time that Elijah Mitchell was out, Jeff Wilson had about 20 touches, I believe, and was on the field for 58% of the snaps. So I would definitely go Wilson and Michelle. No, you're good, man. we're competing with them. So I have nothing bad to say about their product. I don't know their product, to be honest. But I'm sure that they have some support, or reach out to them on Twitter or something, and they might help you. I'm glad you appreciated that, John. I thought it was the best episode we've ever done. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was all in good jest. For those of you that haven't watched the Power Grid, I highly, highly, highly. Some of the information at this point in the week gets a little outdated since we record on Thursdays, but if you're just looking for some light entertainment this week, as well as some good information, go check out the Power Grid on Football Guys YouTube channel. What is the downside rostering Kamara and not Hill? What is the risk rostering Eckler and Guyton in FanDuel? So the downside rostering Kamara and not Hill, I don't think there is one. In cash, I'm doing it just because I think that every touchdown rolls through either Taysom Hill or Alvin Kamara. In a GPP setting, I think they could cannibalize each other. Like if Taysom Hill runs in a touchdown, it certainly hurts Alvin Kamara. So the downside is that you're playing somebody in cash that has Taysom Hill and not Kamara. And they get a Taysom Hill touchdown and you don't get it from Kamara. That's the downside. The risk rostering Eckler and Guyton, I don't think there is one. I think that the price is fair on Guyton, that he doesn't need a huge game. Like he could have 4 for 40 and a potential touchdown, and Eckler could still get his. So when you're looking at guys in like the sub 5,500, 5,500 range, like you can have multiple guys in your cash game lineup. That's not a problem. I've done it many times. I think that 2 weeks ago I had I had 2 doubles, I think, at least. So I don't take too much stock into that. GPP, you might want to consider it, just as far as you need massive upside and correlation, and I don't think that necessarily happens. Shoot me an email for your money. Knotts at footballguys.com. We can talk. Darnell Mooney, Van Jefferson, or Jarvis Landry for flex. If you need consistency, Jarvis Landry. If you want, might be Jarvis either way. The only problem with Jarvis is he hasn't been scoring touchdowns. So if you want a big play potential, go Van Jefferson. Otherwise, go Jarvis Landry. I don't know the question, Ron. Yeah, Max. He mentioned just about everybody on that show. I don't have any opinions on those guys. I was mostly just joking. No, just send me an email for your money and we can talk. Not everybody uses them. We have a competing product. Roto Grinders has a competing product. So a lot of the top end guys do use them, but reach out to them too. So I just don't use them. FanDuel Cash, Beasley, or Julio. I would probably, let me just look. One of these episodes I'm just going to do blind without having a bunch of spreadsheets in front of me. I still like Julio. I mean, Cole Beasley, if I just look, he's really, really gone downhill. One catch for 11 yards. I'll discount that because of the weather. 5 for 46 against the Saints. That's not great, if we're being honest here. And I know that they play a lot of man. Colts 4 for 23. The Jets 2 for 15. The Jaguars 8 for 33. Julio can easily do that. I mean, Julio is going to be the number one guy. Give me Julio Jones. I don't. You could. There's going to be people that are going to do it. I like Jeff Wilson a little bit better. Gronk or Kittle? Gronk this week. Okay. Pick 2, Amari Cooper, David Montgomery, or DJ Moore. It depends if it's PPR or non-PPR. So I'll just assume that it's. I don't know, to be honest. I'm gonna go David Montgomery and DJ Moore. Austin Hooper, Tyler Higbee, or Foster Moreau. I'm not playing Foster Moreau. I know that some people are. I'm not doing it. I think the guy is not good at football. He has so many touches, just doesn't produce. So I'm not playing Foster Moreau. So let's go into Hooper versus Higbee. I look at Hooper versus Higbee. Hooper feels like the better play. With no David Njoku, with no Harrison Bryant, Hooper's going to be the number 2 guy in that offense. For Tyler Higbee, he's at least the number 4 guy in that offense. Behind Odell Beckham, behind Cooper Kupp, behind Van Jefferson, probably behind Sony Michel as a running back as well. So in terms of like who's going to score a touchdown, I feel Jarvis Landry doesn't score touchdowns for the Browns. He has 0 receiving touchdowns in the year. So Hooper might be the number 1 guy in the red zone. So I'm going Austin Hooper. Let me go back to this question now that he's clarified that it's PPR. So we have 4 minutes left. So get your questions in. I know there's still about 50 people here, so that's awesome. And I will answer any question that comes up before 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock Eastern. I'm here in Chicago. So the question is Montgomery. Computer wants to freeze. Montgomery, Cooper, and Moore. Got it right. Okay. It's David Montgomery and DJ Moore. Amari Cooper is a guy, there's a lot of options and a lot of mouths to feed. That game could definitely shoot out, but some of these NFC East games are like 20-17. And, you have Elliott, you have Gallup, you have Lamb, you have Cooper all healthy. You have Dalton Schultz in there too. Just a lot of mouths to feed in Dallas versus Montgomery and Moore. I feel a little bit safer about. Yeah, any of you guys can email. My Twitter account is in my link right here, Devin Knotts FBG. Obviously, the more people that email me, the more people that DM. I don't know that I'm going to be like open to just like chatting with you. I can certainly respond like throughout the week on certain questions, but sometimes it does take me a little bit of time to get just based off of the number of people that reach out. But yeah, always feel free to send me an email, send me a tweet, etc., DM, whatever the case is, and I can certainly respond. Where sort of what we try to do at Football Guys, where we try to really be available more than some of our competitors. So really try to be interactive, really try to be available. So if you guys have questions outside of this show is always great because it does help us, obviously grow the product, grow the brand. But if there's things you're worried about, things you're thinking about, things you want to go into more detail about, send me an email. Mike Williams or Jerry Jeudy, PPR. Mike Williams. This is one of the few that I've answered tonight where I'm going Mike Williams. Favorite FanDuel plays. I've talked a lot about it tonight, but I'll go through it really quickly. On the low end, Jalen Guyton, Hunter Renfrow. Tight end, I like Travis Kelce quite a bit. Chris Godwin and cash, I like. T. Higgins, I like over Mike Williams. Didn't get a single T. Higgins question this week, which is interesting. So maybe I'm one of the few. Maybe it's my Justin Jefferson again this week. I was one of the few that liked him last week. Jeff Wilson at running back. I like Alvin Kamara quite a bit. Ezekiel Elliott Pollard is out, which is looking like he is. Leonard Fournette is a really good play. Taysom Hill is my top quarterback. Tom Brady is my second quarterback. Lamar Jackson is my GPP quarterback. New Orleans defense, if you can afford them. Denver defense over the Chargers. Okay. Hopefully that helps. All right. If most of the field is playing Brady, would it make sense to leverage the Fournette? Yeah. Cash, I don't worry too much about it, to be honest. I mean, you can. Fournette's a really good cash play. So I have no issue. But forcing a leverage play, it's more of a GPP concept. But I can sign off on Fournette for cash. Melvin Gordon, Deontay Foreman, or AJ Dillon for second running back. Let me just pull this up. I know that some of these season-long things are really important. Dillon, Gordon, or who was the last one? Foreman? It's not going to be Gordon. It's either Foreman or go AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon. I don't love it, but it's I feel a little safer about it. Knotts at footballguys.com. Is there a Seahawks running back worth playing in DFS? No, I don't think so. Alex Collins is just, he's not good, right? I mean, and he has a chance. The quote from today is that he returned to practice and he has a chance to be really active. Nothing about Alex Collins is really active. He's averaging like 3.5 yards per carry. His last game out, he had 7 carries for 14 yards. He doesn't catch passes. He has 8 all year. His only game above 100 yards was against possibly the worst run defense in football outside of the Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, and Elijah Penny might be even worse. So, no. And that's not, it's a totally fair question. You know, we should always look at every team. I can't do it. Can't do it. Julio Jones over 53.5. Yeah. No, you're good, Fear Money. You're good. I'll answer this last one and then we'll get out of here. I'm going to go watch the UFC pay-per-view. Michelle Crowder, Mooney, or Jeff Wilson for full flex PPR. Give me Sony Michel. He has the most clear path to, he's in a completely different league here than these other 3 guys. So I think that this one, I can say pretty confidently that even if it doesn't work out, it's the right play. I mean, Sony Michel looked pretty good last week, even with Darrell Henderson active. It's clear that they trust him fully. And with Darrell Henderson out, Wilson has to deal with Michael Hasty. Crowder is always hit or miss. He sometimes has these massive games, but they're highly unpredictable. And Darnell Mooney, you know, he's a guy. He gets some targets, but he's not a guy that I overly trust. I think Michelle is an absolutely great play this week. So, okay, with that, I am out of here. I wish everyone the best week 14, and I will see everyone next week. Have a good one. Thanks, everybody.